thank you for joining me today.
Pleasure.
So I want to begin with what got you into becoming an executive coach and business coach.
Oh, the $1,000,000 question. So just to go back a little bit, so I spent about 25 years in the corporate world, and I grew along the ladder like a lot of people do, became, executive of a large firm. And part of that role during that time was always mentoring people. And I say role because it's something that I naturally did, and a lot of people that I've mentored have become very successful. And the heart of the transformation, whilst it's about sales and growth, it's always about people. It's always about people and enhancing the team culture, growing networks, achieving the bottom line growth year after year. And I was successful on paper, very successful on paper, but I never felt fulfilled. I never really felt fulfilled in it. And along the journey, my wife got very sick, and my corporate career was cut short very, very quickly. And I became a carer for my wife. And I suppose that single experience made me realize that just how important life is, and that no matter how successful or influential or wealthy we are on paper, and no matter how many gadgets we have or fast cars, it really wasn't motivating me. And really what I wanted to do was support people in a different way. And through the journey, there was a few twists and turns. That's my camera going wrong. And this is the beauty of doing webinars, doing Zoom camera sometimes go. So there's a few twists and turns along the way. And that's how, and that's where I am today. Through the twists and turns, I realized that actually what I needed to do was coach people. And I set myself up as a successful coaching business.
I wanted to touch on the fact that you've been able to pivot from one career to another. A lot of people might find that quite challenging because they're so fixated on either their title or they just don't know what to do next. How did you go about that process of pivoting and changing your career direction altogether?
So it's not easy. I don't want, I'm not one of these people that's going to win if I'm going to win the lottery, right? There's going to be a couple of million people that win the $80 million with me, and I'm still going to end up with $50 at the end of the day. Okay. So I'm not a lucky person. Yes, it's hard work. Throughout my life, I've always put myself in environments where it's to give it a go. And I run a very simple rule. As long as it's not illegal, and as long as no one's going to die, I'm going to give it a try. And I don't know where I heard the saying from, but I once heard it saying that the wealthiest people are those in the cemetery. The wealthiest place in the world is the cemetery, because in the cemetery are all the dreams, or all the innovations that people just didn't want to do because we had no sales behind it. And that thing with Wendy, the event with Wendy, that changed our life, getting off the corporate train. My life has always been about making everything I do count and making every day count. So how did I do it? I never knew I was going to become a coach. Never in my wildest dreams did I actually think I was becoming a coach. I actually thought I was a really good salesperson, but through my own coaches, when we actually delved down to actually what my passion was and what my people was, and this is really funny because my wife comes from a HR background, I actually found out that I thought I was cash rich and passion poor, so cash is the sales. And actually what I realized is I'm very passionate about people. And when you're passionate about people and you want to help people, the cash just comes. And I think that's the way we do today. When we talk about adding value, we're not talking about the cost of it. You add the value and people will pay for the value. Does that make sense?
It does. It's very good. Yeah. I suppose, can you share a little bit more about your purpose and the types of people you're helping?
Sure. So, you know me well. I'm not conventional. I'm anything but conventional. And being different isn't bad. Being different is refreshing, and you know that from your own growth and from your own corporate journey. And I think it goes back to, when I was at school, I was a mathematical genius, but I couldn't write and I couldn't read, and I was classed as thick. But what I had was dyslexia. But the system said I was thick because I didn't fit the system, which is really important, because you don't fit the system. And that's the problem, because you don't fit the system, your class is being different. And what I realized is, when I came to Australia, and I felt like a bit like a square peg in a round hole, because the first thing I came to Australia, I had no friends, no jobs, no idea what AFL was. Everyone, I wasn't connected to a Melbourne's private school network or anything like that. So I very quickly had to find my own pathway. I had to find out quickly. And, today, my philosophy, my purpose is really about not so much helping the underdog, but just helping ordinary people achieve extraordinary outcomes. So you don't have to be an Olympic champion. You don't have to go to the best private school. You don't have to have all the certificates on the wall. You just have to have a real deep desire to break through that plateau that you're in at the moment. And if you've got that, we can do it, but we'll do it in a way that suits you and your business and the way you want to grow. Not necessarily the way the textbook tells you to.
Is there a particular industry or profession you're targeting or focusing on?
So this is again is really interesting. That I spent 20 odd years in professional services, so it would obviously seem to be a niche to go into professional services. Now, whilst I started in financial services, that's now become, and it's really amazing the perception of what is professional service. So today my clients range financial services, legal sector, accounting, banking. The interesting people class banking and financial different, health, IT, and through my rebranding that I did recently, what was really interesting is that we don't tend to put into a box or a hole of who my ideal sector is. It's about people. So today my clients range from an executive assistant working for a multinational company through to a really high growth financial services firm. It's about people and organizations that want to be different and look at things unconventionally. So it's the example for the firms in professional services firms, the ones where I'm making a real big impact in, are those firms that don't charge by the hour.
Yeah.
No, that is quite unconventional still in legal services. Firms that don't charge by the hour are really growing a lot faster than the traditional size firms.
Now, in the last, I suppose for Australia, in the last 2 to 4 weeks, business and the way we work has changed quite significantly. One of your topics has been, networking with purpose. Given the current environment, how do we go about networking when we can't physically go to locations?
So, again, being a bit unconventional, I talk to people saying that when we talk about networking, the first thing that comes in our minds is events. And people go, I don't like going to events. And I say, well, if you don't like going to events, don't go. Okay, simple as that. There's different ways that you can network. We need to get it out of our head that being an introvert and being an extrovert is different for networking. If you're not, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg are all introverts, but they're very successful networkers. So I think at this ideal time, this is the time when introverts, people who don't like networking, actually excel. So some of my clients at the moment are doing some really interesting things on LinkedIn. They're not writing blogs, they're not writing articles, but they're following and they're commenting on a lot of people and showing that they're showing some thought leadership along the way. Some of my clients are doing things like, like this, we were scheduled to do the full filming and we said, well, we can stop and wait till this situation changes, if it ever changes, or next year sometime, or we can just get on with it. And that's networking, right? We had a bit of a chat beforehand about, life working from home and all that type of stuff. And the networking changes because if we were in the studio, if we were in your office doing this, we'd be dressed up in a suit and doing it completely different. But we kind of accept a different type of networking here. We've got a lot more relaxed, it's a lot more casual. As my wife said, it's very easy to go, oh, there's a problem with the internet line and cancel the Zoom if you don't like a Zoom. So we can do a lot more things. And what I really like about times of being unconventional like this is some really interesting things going on. So one of my clients is at the moment, they're doing a lot of work with the team. So they always have a Friday lunchtime together. So now they're sending out an Uber Eats voucher to all their clients, to all their staff members, and the staff members are getting together on a Friday afternoon. So the company's still giving that. People that are organising, some of my clients are organising network events every single month, can now organise 2 or 3 networking events. But I think we also have to be careful that I think in the last 4 weeks, everyone's gone on Zoom and we're Zoom overload.
Mhm.
So how else can we do it? So, I've got this little rubber duck. I've sent it in the post to a couple of people, just as a friend, at their home. It's taken a few more days to get there. So it's about innovation. This is the platform where we've got a blank page, and there is no textbook for today. So again, as long as no one's going to die, and as long as it's not illegal, the walls are yours. You can do absolutely everything. So networking at this moment in time. Now, interesting about networking. The first thing I ask is, how are you? And the second thing I ask is, how can I support you? Don't worry, you don't need to ask anything else.
Now, tell me about the duck.
About the little Banfi. So, yeah, little Banfi. So Banfi is named after a place in Italy called Castello Banfi. It's in an area called Lombardy, which is the epicenter of COVID-19 in Italy at the moment. Banfi's been around with us for 20 odd years, and today he's the symbol of an underdog. And we had a holiday of a lifetime about 8 years ago, when we didn't think Wendy had a long time to live, probably not 12 months. And the idea of going away on this long holiday was that she would die and her insurance and super would pay for this holiday of a lifetime. She wasn't going to reach 60, she wasn't going to reach 45. And it just so happens that she didn't die, thankfully. But I've now got, so one of the reasons my coach is I'm still going to pay for this big holiday that we had. But Banfi became a symbol of you can achieve anything you want to achieve. And when I came back to Australia after this holiday, and I really couldn't find a job, and I was middle-aged, I'm 40, male, I really couldn't get a job in the banking sector. And one day I was driving over the Westgate Bridge, and I drove over the Westgate Bridge 3 or 4 times, and I really thought that the only way I can ensure Wendy's financial security is to jump off the bridge. And there's a couple of problems with that. One, I'm scared of heights, and 2, my father-in-law put the fences up, but let's work on that. And I really did think that was the only solution. And I looked down on my dashboard, and there was a little duck, Banfi. And it just reminded me of all the great times, and no matter that we had together, no matter how bad you think it is, there's always people willing to help and willing to support you. And I drove off the Westgate Bridge, stopped at the service station, rang up a good friend and said, I need some help. And that's why Banfi today is, I carry around with him 24/7. There have been times where we've gone on road trips and I've gone without Banfi, and we've gone back home because I won't go out without it. But it's more likely I'm out with Banfi than I'm out with my wife. So that's what he's there for. And you know what? How many times do you ever get given a duck? You get given water bottles, you get given pens, but not many people get a rubber duck.
No one gets a rubber duck.
And he's got his own Instagram account. And so that's what he's there for. I carry him around as a remembrance that, in particular times like this, no matter how bad things are, we're alive, we're healthy, touch wood, and things are different. As I say, so life has changed, but it hasn't stopped. Get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
It's awesome. Thanks for sharing that and the meaning behind the duck.
First time I haven't cried, actually.
So you would obviously be dealing with a lot of people, and what are you seeing the trends are now and I suppose going forward?
So you're right. The beauty of what I do and the people I talk to around the world is trends are really important, but I think it's not just seeing the trend, but actually appreciating what the trend is. So I see 3 trends at the moment. One is on the consumer. That I think the way that we're shopping, and I don't just mean shopping in Coles or Woolworths, but the way we're shopping in general has changed completely. That shopping online is imperative now. It's an imperative part of our life. Before it was a choice. So not only are we shopping for groceries online, but we're actually now shopping for accountants, lawyers, etc. So I think the digital marketing space, I think how we shop is changing. So if you're not online, your online presence has become even more important than it was beforehand. And I think that's why we're seeing a massive boost, a massive growth in digital marketing at the moment. The second thing I'm seeing is in business, and actually how business is doing. And one thing about being remote, is two things. One, you've got to be very nimble, but I think employees and people are asking more about what's their roles and what's their responsibilities. And what I mean by that is what exactly are you responsible for, what you're accountable for, and what you need to be consulted on. Because when we're away, you need to know that you've got permission and the authority to go and do things. So I think roles and responsibilities need to be a lot clearer, and being a lot clearer, it shows where people's roles are within the business. The second trend I'm seeing is humans, and we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of humans in the last 3 to 4 weeks, not just in Australia, but globally as well. For me, even more now going forward, there's a greater focus on actions and accountability rather than just the words we're going to say. You got to think about it. Life on this planet, we survived the Ice Age, we survived dinosaurs, we survived 2 world wars, we survived the introduction of the mobile phones and how important mobile phones. Life has changed, but it hasn't stopped, and we've got to stop thinking about, we're not going to go back to the way we were. Never. We're never ever going to go back to the way we were. We're going to move forward, and we're going to have lessons from that. So we've got to start thinking forward thinking really, really quickly. So those are the 3 trends: consumer, business, and how we act as humans.
Interesting. Are you getting asked, I suppose, what questions are you being asked now by your client base and from others within your network?
So a couple of things. One, people think that there's a lot of free advice going around. No, there's no free advice going around. All right? Businesses continue. So at the moment in Australia in particular, I think we're running a 3 to 4 stage economy. Just like in the resource sector when WA was actually booming in parts of Victoria, New South Wales wasn't quite booming. I think we're seeing sectors that boom. We're seeing sectors booming in digital marketing. I think we're seeing professional services booming. We're seeing transport booming, healthcare booming. So we are seeing some sectors booming. So we do have some economies that are booming well. So there are opportunities. Yes, there's some sectors that are failing and failing really rapidly. So the questions I'm being asked is about how do we make a real difference? And I think this comes back to who our DNA and our culture is. So those questions, actually picking up the phone and all the emailing people, asking how you are, but 2, the first question is how can I or my network support you? So that's, forget all the high level pitch. I don't care about your high level. I want to know how I can support you. And the businesses that are going to be successful in the next 5 to 7 years are those that are taking the time now to actually ask their network how they can help. What does surprise me is that some businesses are just stopping. Some people are freezing. This is the time for investment. This is a time when the investment you make now will be exponential growth going forward. So it doesn't, yes, things may take longer. So it may take, instead of taking 6 weeks to recruit someone, it may now take 12 weeks. Things are a little bit longer, but you remember things were long when we didn't have the internet, we only had the postal service. Sending letters to each other took a long time. So we've actually have been there before. So I think the questions are we busy? Yes, we're busy. Is it work we can do? Yeah. My business has suffered as well. I brought forward my digital marketing plan, my digital strategy has been brought forward by 12 months. My business has changed, hasn't stopped, but my business has changed.
Yeah.
So
what do you see on the other end of all this?
Sorry, say that again.
What do you see on the other end of this? Like, how will we?
Well, so if I had that crystal ball, then I'd probably get the lottery numbers. So what I really hope is that we learn just how we've learned a lesson on just how important human to human contact is and being nice to people. And when I say being nice is that being nice to people can pay back in multiple dividends, multiple times throughout your journey. We've seen there's people, we have an enormous heart. That's what I want. What I don't want us to see, I don't want us to see that when we get the okay that we can go back to the office, everyone's back in the office, everyone's back on the hot desk, we've got our heads in our desk, and we forget about the interaction that we've had. Okay? I want people to be innovative. I actually think that some people are looking at their careers now and going, do I really want to be a lawyer? Do I really want to be a financial advisor? Do I really want to be an engineer? Some people are saying I definitely don't want to stay at home. This working from home isn't as good. So what I'd love to see is the innovation, the innovation created. You know, you think about how much red tape we've managed to knock away in order to build hospitals, run through medical science, operate businesses, and make decisions. All that red tape in our lives that we put there. I'm not saying we've got to get rid of risk, but I think I've said for a long time, I think our risk appetite has diminished immensely. I'd like to see that open a little bit more and people taking more measured, intelligent risk. And having fun. Life's too short. Life is far too short.
It's very true. Now, before we wrap up, I want to ask you one more thing. What can people start doing today to make every single day count?
So I'm a big believer in creating a not to-do list. Not a to-do list, but a not to-do list. The biggest thing I get asked from people is, I want to grow as a professional, but I don't have time. And the reason we don't have time is because we come in the morning and we create a great big to-do list and we go, oh, time. And if you actually sit down and create a not to-do list, you'll actually find out a lot of things you're doing that are not really that important. And once you get rid of that, you then find time to do things you're important. I've done it myself. I've generated around about 20 hours per month of stuff that I was doing that is no longer needed to be done because it just wasn't adding value. If you want a not to-do list, just type in not to-do list on Google. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of lists. Find the one that suits you best and fill it in. It takes between 2 and 4 weeks to get some really good methodology behind understanding what you're doing as a not to-do list. Once you do that, you've got the 20 hours, 20, 30, 40 hours a month. It's what you're going to do with those hours that's really going to make the difference. Because, you know, life is too short, and, you know, every time you take a step forward, make sure make sure it counts. Make sure it has a meaningful purpose to the journey that you want to take, not the journey that people are telling you to take.
Gordon, thanks so much today for sharing your insights and your journey so far.
Pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure, Louise. Thank you.